George, and the host of this program called Gems, Growing Every Mate Spiritually. We want you to know that God is interested in you building a healthy relationship, whether you're married or whether you're single. All of life is about relationships, and it is the will of God that we have healthy, strong relationships. So growing every mate spiritually is about building each other up, and it's about relationships. We also like to tackle areas in relationships that are controversial. And one of the topics, you can call it a hot topic or a crazy topic or whatever kind of topic, but we were talking about how to rebuild your spouse's trust after an affair. And you say, well, I thought this was a Christian program. Well, unfortunately, Christians are having affairs. And we, instead of not talking about these situations and not dealing with them, it is important that we deal with them. As a pastor, I've been pastoring for years along with my wife. We have came in contact with couples who were challenged with these issues of affairs, whether it was the wife having an affair, the husband having an affair. We have counseled couples and inside of the church dealing with both of these areas of having affairs. And in some cases, we've seen it where both the husband and the wife was in the church, as opposed to maybe one saved and one not saved. We have seen it both ways. So this is an area that need to be addressed, and we in the church need to address it. So that's why we're talking about how to rebuild your spouse's trust after an affair. So on our last program, we was talking about the various steps on what to do, and we hope that these steps will help you and help you overcome this area of hurt, pain, and distrust, because we want people to know that God is a healer and he can rebuild and heal your relationships. But we have to do our part also. We have to get involved and not make the mistakes that led to those areas of betrayal and hurt. The first thing that we talked about, and I want to bring my wife in on this, the first step that we did talk about was you got to stop lying. If you're going to rebuild trust, you can't be a liar. You got to stop lying. You're going to have to tell the truth. So making excuses for your actions and not dealing with the issues and deflecting, trying to say, well, I wouldn't have this. No, let's be truthful. You made a bad choice. You made a wrong decision. Regardless of why you did it, you need to deal with the fact and the truth behind why you did what you did. So you got to stop lying and own up and accept responsibility. Number two, it's important that if you're going to rebuild trust, that you're going to have to be around. In other words, you got to make yourself available. You need to be there emotionally, be there physically. You need to be there. And it's very important that you understand that because of the mistrust and the betrayal that has deeply hurt the spouse, that there's going to be some suspicion. There's going to be a little paranoia that's lingering there. And you're going to have to rebuild that trust by making yourself available, being around, being accountable, and showing yourself accountable. So all of that's very important.
But let me say this, because I know you say being around, but let me reiterate this. I believe sure. I alluded to this before, if not on the station, I know at the church. Keep your children out of it.
Amen.
That's so important, because a lot of times the parent, whether it's the wife or the husband, they want to bring their children into what has happened. I don't know if they want to prove that, see, your dad isn't right, or if they're trying to prove that the wife isn't right. I don't know, but I know that happens too much, and it damages the children.
Yes.
That's grown up
Yeah, and the children has nothing to do with
exactly
with you.
That's a grown up
and they don't need to be in the middle, and you don't have to, declare who's the victim and who's the villain.
Exactly, because when children know that you stepped outside of the marriage, or if you've been caught in a lie or you lying, it puts a strain on your relationship with them as well.
Right.
While you're trying to defend yourself
Mm-hmm.
and make your husband look bad or make your wife look bad or however,
Right.
it puts a strain on the relationship with you with the children.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair. Just like you couldn't sleep because the husband was out and vice versa. Now the child being aware to what's going on, he or she is uncomfortable and restless and
Right.
unable to sleep. And they just too young to bear that type of emotional responsibility.
That's true, and it really has nothing to do with them, and they don't need to be in the middle of it. It's bad enough that they see that something's not right, but to bring them in the conversation, to bring them in the middle of the issues, is not fair to them emotionally, and it's not their responsibility to bring any type of healing or correction. That the children has nothing to do with those things. So it's very important to leave them out. So that's why it's important that we need to understand that we as adults need to deal with our own issues without the children.
And not only that, when a person does that, especially I know with sons and moms, because we have grandkids, and when our children, they are adults and they're married, except one, they try to bring our grandchildren into, they say,
in their differences.
Yeah, say, ask him, ask her. We say no. We're not talking to them. We're talking to you. And then on the other hand, also, when we bring the children into it, it wounds them. And like they don't, like they can't trust you now. They also take that into their relationship growing up. And now, I don't trust any woman because I remember my mama did this. Or you had the woman, or the young lady saying, well, I don't trust a man because my daddy did this. And they didn't, they don't even have to know all of this.
Right, and that's where it's very immature. It's very immature for couples to bring their children in the middle of their issues and differences.
And the reason why they do it is because actually they get defensive, and they assign blame.
Yeah, and that's number 3.
Yeah.
Don't get into defensiveness and assigning blame. That's a no. Don't get into that. And that's how sometimes the kids kind of get in that mix, because again, we're instead of utilizing steps to rebuild trust, we're actually keeping the situation in a damaged mode when we don't have to. If we're going to bring healing, if we're going to bring correction, if we're going to bring restoration, reconciliation, then we can't be pointing the fingers. I wouldn't have done this if you didn't do this, and pointing fingers. No, this is a time, especially if you are the guilty party, this is a time for you to be remorseful, empathetic, compassionate, honest, and all of that good stuff about what you have done so that you can bring healing.
Right. So do not waste time blaming your actions on anyone or anything else when you know it was your fault.
Right. Take responsibility for your decision. You the man, you the woman. You take responsibility for your choices. Don't blame somebody else for a choice you made.
And then if healing, is going to start taking place, you should have no room for excuses anymore.
That's right. Own up. Take responsibility. And in doing so, you now can put this relationship on a track towards healing, because now you have accepted responsibility, and the other person now can move forward. If there's going to be restoration and reconciliation, they can move forward. Number 4, you need to treat your partner as if they are the very center of your world. So if you're going to rebuild trust, Now you're going to have to treat them like they're the center of your world, so to speak. You're going to have to make them a priority. You're going to have to change your attitude and your value towards them. You're going to have to show greater value towards them. So it's very important that you do that. Number 5, your life must be an open book. Again, you must make yourself accountable. Go ahead.
No,
baby.
I was going to say in number 6 so we can finish and get to number 10. Number 6, be prepared to answer questions.
Be prepared to answer questions. There are going to be questions about what happened and why it happened. Be prepared to answer those questions, even though it may be difficult to deal with it. But as a responsible spouse, as a spouse who wants reconciliation and to build trust, you're going to have to be willing to answer those questions. Number 7, do not ever attempt to dictate the length of time the betrayed partner's recovery should take place. If I'm the villain, I can't dictate the time of when my spouse should be healed. So you're going to have to be patient. If you was in an affair for a year, you probably need to give that spouse a year to heal. Well, Ram, you just don't understand. They just keep, no. You need to understand that you can't dictate the time of their healing. You have to make sure you're ministering all of the right things that's going to bring the healing to a speedy recovery. But if you want to just get defensive, angry, and this, that, and that, you're not helping your situation. If you want to rebuild trust, it's not going to just be handed to you automatically, Bubba. It's not going to be handed to you automatically, sister. It's got to be rebuilt. And the only way it's going to be rebuilt, you're going to have to show some patience.
Yeah, and if your spouse asks you to do something for them to help them recover from the affairs, such as going to counseling, if they ask you to do that, then do it right away.
That's right.
Do not make them ask twice.
Right. Be willing.
Right.
Do it.
Putting all such things, only communicates to your spouse that their feelings are unimportant to you and that you lack the proper remorse for what you've done. And nothing should be more important to you right now than helping your spouse recover from this hurt and betrayal.
That's right.
That is so important. So if you cause this pain, and you should be doing everything in your power to make up to him or to her, to make sure that the healing begins.
That's right. So you're going to have to be sensitive in during this recovery time. And number 8, choose your battles wisely. What do you mean, Pastor Sam? Well, hey, don't get sensitive or picky about them being sensitive. Don't be sensitive about certain topics. Don't be sensitive about your privacy and your possessions when you was the villain in the situation of the affair. You're trying to rebuild trust. You're trying to regain trust. So you can't be picking fights over little stuff, this, that, and other. If they're overstepping their boundaries, the only reason they're overstepping a boundary is because you done stepped out of the boundary by doing what you did. So it's important that you recognize that you can't be wanting to fight. You got to bring healing.
Remember that the days and weeks immediately following the discovery of the affair, the time you got busted, the day you got busted, it's vital. It's important.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because your actions during this time will greatly determine the speed of your recovery. So if your spouse needs support or feels that they need to be loved, respected, do so.
That's right.
Do so right away. Do so, because your chance of recovery will be greatly improved if you do this. And on the other hand, if your spouse feels alone, ignored, and in the dark, it will be much more difficult to reestablish their trust later. So it really depends upon you.
Mm-hmm.
And you responding to their needs instead of being turned off to what they need.
Right. So that's very important. Very important. So
because they still paranoid.
Right.
They still angry. They still in the distrust mode. You have to understand all of this.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have to be very, very sensitive. You know, we don't have to have a divorce. We just need a healing.
That's it.
We just need reconciliation.
Right.
You know, that's it. And it's out here for us. And never make a decision when you're angry or when you're mad, because usually you'll make the wrong decision every time.
Yes. Yes. So it's very important that we understand that we can get over these hurdles if we take the right steps. And that's why we're trying to take the time to give you these steps so that you can regain the trust, rebuild the foundation, rebuild the relationship, and it's possible.
You know what? We were talking about this on the way. I don't really believe that Christians, I'm talking about Christians, just strategically plan to cheat on their spouses. I don't believe that one day they just get up and say, you know what, this is what you feel like doing. It's not as though you say, what you feel like doing today? You feel like going shopping? You feel like going bowling? I don't believe that the spouse get up and say, what you feel like doing? And they say to themselves, I feel like cheating. I'm going to cheat on him today. I'm going to cheat on her today. I don't believe that. I believe somewhere down the line, we stop paying attention to one another. So listening is so important. If I'm saying to you, this is what I need, feed it to me. Because even the Bible said, to a hungry man, any bitter thing is sweet. So I am hungering for this attention. I am hungering for you to lose weight. You know, I'm hungering for you to take out more time with me. I'm hungering for you to affirm me. If I'm telling you this over and over and over and over again, then it's so imperative that you pay attention to what I'm saying, because if you're not paying attention, believe me, the devil is.
Yeah.
So at an opportune time, he's going to bring that man before that woman. He's going to bring that woman before that man. He's going to be what she wants him to be at that particular moment, at that particular time. She's going to say what he wants to be heard. And then he's going to gravitate towards those words over and over and over, because this woman makes him feel good. A lot of times we always want to look at the woman and say, well, how does she look? How does she look? It isn't about the look. It's often about the heart. What did she do versus how she looks?
Right.
So it's so important, you know.
Very important.
So, you know, well, if you love me, you wouldn't have cheated on me. Well, that's somewhat true. But nevertheless, if you love me, you would have listened to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're trying to show you how to take the steps to rebuild your relationship and rebuild trust. Number 9, do not behave inappropriately or create future problems. Other words, now that you're trying to rebuild a relationship, you know, you're gonna have to walk the line, so to speak. You're gonna have to do what's necessary to rebuild that trust. You can't be committing yourself to other people, other situations, when you need to be committed to rebuilding the marriage. And you want to do number 10, baby? Number 10, use this opportunity to create a new relationship with your partner and with yourself. You have to start all over, so to speak, as if you're beginning a new relationship. You're going to have to redate them. You're going to have to you're going to have to start all over.
Because think about it, you know, make time to court your spouse again. Think about it. In your affair, you probably did those little things you used to do for your spouse. You did for the other person. You took them out.
Yes.
You opened the door. You treated them. You smiled at them. You probably gave flowers. You know, you probably dedicated meaningful songs to them. You know, small little things you did. Well, you got to take those same things
and do it again.
Do it again with
Send
your
those
spouse.
nice little texts and do those little necessary things to show that you want to rebuild a relationship.
Because trust me, you know, your spouse is going to wonder why you were so romantic and open with the person in the affair. I remember my pastor friend, she said that her husband was in an affair, and she just didn't understand why. She thought that she did everything, and she really realized I did everything, but I didn't say everything. And that's a difference.
Go ahead and elaborate on that.
Okay, she did everything. She fulfilled, her sexual, responsibilities, and I'm not gonna say responsibility because she admired him as much as he admired her, and she thought everything was okay. She cooked, she cleaned, she was a mother, but she didn't tell him how great he was as a pastor, how wonderful he was, how she thanked him for the life that they have, because she said that they were struggling, and because of him and faith that he had in God, that she saw him taking steps and bringing them into victory, taking them from victory to victory to victory. And she just took those things for granted without saying to him, I applaud you, baby. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't, blah, blah, blah. So then she said, but another woman came along and began to start sharing with him. I noticed how great of a man of God you are, and so on and so on. And he fell into the affair with those words. And she was sharing with me how she would just tell him, not tell him, but ask him over and over, how does she look? Why did you do this? Why did you take her here and, and couldn't take me there, over and over and over. And I admired him as well, because he got up and said to us the reason why he did those things. It's too long for me to really expound, but it was good information. Nevertheless, they healed and they hold. Yes,
their relationship.
Right, exactly. So your spouse would not feel as though you love them more than the other person if you're not willing to do some things for them and go out of the way extra for them as well. So it's so important. Amen.
Very important. So these are the steps. These are the 10 steps that will help you rebuild your trust if you have fallen in an affair, after an affair. And we want you to know that you don't have to lose your marriage because of a mistake such as this.
Let me say this before we go off the air. One important factor to keep in mind is that even though your spouse will ask you to compare them to the other man or the other woman, as far as was she pretty or sexier, etc., they also are interested in knowing how they are better than the other person. Yeah, baby, but she couldn't compare to you with this. Yes, but he was more wiser, than you. So just don't let her or him ask these questions without you reiterating how great your mate is as well. Right. Make them feel good about themselves in this particular moment.
Amen. So we're out of time, and we want you to know that God is ready to rebuild and help you rebuild by you taking those necessary steps.
And please take the necessary steps to rebuild trust.
And you can do it.
Yes. So thank you so much for listening to Gems Growing Every Mate Spiritually. God bless you, and we're looking forward to talking to you next time. God bless.
Amen. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Gems, Growing Every Mate Spiritually with Samuel and Vita Jackson, pastors of Freedom Grace Full Gospel Church. You're invited to join them at the Woodgate Elementary School, located 101 Central Avenue in Matson, Illinois, for Sunday morning service at 11 a.m. For details, call 708-752-6207. That's 708-752-6207.